So I was happy to have the chance to do this morning's talk because I didn't finish what I started last week. And also, I have a correction to make and some additional information related to what I talked about last week. So once again, we're looking at the topic of mind generation, Semkye in Tibetan, which is the term that's used in this text. Very, very important, precious text, Ornament of Clear Realizations by Maitreya, which explains the whole path to enlightenment in great detail, and is actually the basis for the Lamrim teachings. And so this is the first of 70 topics that are covered in this text. Okay, so just... this is a slide from last time. I made a boo-boo. So this third bullet point, originally it said, when a person initially generates bodhicitta, it could be either wishing or engaging bodhicitta, depending on the circumstances. So after last week's talk, I was thinking more about this and looking at the commentaries, and I couldn't find the source of this. I got this sentence from, after we studied the ornament, myself and another nun compiled what we call a study manual for students who are studying the ornament. So we kind of took the main material and put it together in a kind of simple language. So this sentence was in there, it was in the study manual, but I couldn't find it anywhere in any of the commentaries, so I don't know where I got it from. And I wrote to Sugi, who's a Singapore woman who translated all of the texts. She's an excellent translator, both from text, like written translations, also oral translations. She's kind of an expert on the ornament. She's studied a lot. And so I asked her about this, and she said, no, she's never heard this before, and she thinks it's incorrect. So cross this out. And what I did find in the commentaries, our teacher, Geshe Tenzin Tenpel, when he was teaching, he said, when we initially generate bodhicitta, we have wishing bodhicitta. Having generated that, we take the bodhisattva vows. When we start training in the deeds of a bodhisattva, we generate the engaging bodhicitta. So the sequence is the first bodhicitta, we're talking about uncontrived bodhicitta, which enables you to actually enter the path, Mahayana path of accumulation. So it's wishing bodhicitta. And then it said that following that, you need to take the bodhisattva vows. And then after taking the bodhisattva vows, once you start engaging in doing bodhisattva deeds, then you have engaging bodhicitta. So that is the sequence. So I apologize for this mistake, this boo-boo. I don't know where I got it from, but anyway. And then the next point, the next bullet point, the first part of that says, these two types of bodhicitta are mutually exclusive. I also had doubt about that, because I couldn't find that anywhere in the commentaries. And again, I don't know where I got it from. But it does seem to be correct. So I also checked with Sugi about that. And she said, yes, this is correct based on Gyaltsabje's explanations, based on the explanations of Gyaltsabje. So when we studied the ornament, we studied it with commentaries. First, the commentary by the Indian master Haribhadra. And then, because even that was a little hard to understand, we studied Gyaltsabje's commentary, which is considered the best, or the preferred one to use, plus commentary by Jetsun Chökyi Gyaltsen, which hasn't been fully translated yet into English. But our teacher was using that as the basis for explanation. So anyway, according to Gyaltsabje's explanation, it is true that these two types of bodhicitta, wishing bodhicitta and engaging bodhicitta, are mutually exclusive, because you can only have one of those at a time. You can't have them both at the same time in your mind stream. And the way our teacher explained it was, it's like this stream of bodhicitta, this single stream or continuity of bodhicitta in the mind of a bodhisattva. And depending on the circumstances, it's sometimes wishing bodhicitta and sometimes engaging bodhicitta, but never the same. So even though that sentence doesn't appear explicitly in the text, it's true, as far as we know.
Does that mean, in the last thing that you said about it's like a stream, sometimes wishing, sometimes engaged, does that mean that you would, once you had wishing bodhicitta that turned into engaged bodhicitta, you wouldn't go back to wishing? Or that you could go flip-flop back and forth depending on what your mind was doing?
Well, this is coming. I'm going to give more explanation about that. More complications. And also, since last week's talk, partly because of the questions some people were asking, it made me also think about this whole topic more. And I was also trying to do research and find more information. So this is what I came up with in my thoughts. Both wishing and engaging bodhicitta are the same in entity. It's the same thing. Basically, they are the same state of mind, because they're both divisions of conventional bodhicitta, conventional mind generation. So they have the same qualities. It's a primary mind that aspires to attain full, complete enlightenment for the benefit of others. And the difference between them isn't so much in their entity, but more in what the bodhisattva is doing. Okay, so it's not that this is how it seems. The bodhicitta itself isn't different when it's wishing or engaging, but the bodhisattva is doing different things. Okay, so when the bodhisattva is actively engaged in bodhisattva deeds, giving, ethics, and so forth, and their bodhicitta is in a manifest form, then it's called engaging bodhicitta. You don't have to worry about typing this. I'll send you the slide. But then, when the bodhisattva is not actively engaged in bodhisattva deeds, or when the bodhisattva is in meditative equipoise on emptiness, they're sitting there meditating on emptiness single-pointedly, and at that point in time, their bodhicitta is non-manifest. It can't be manifest when they're in meditative equipoise on emptiness, because the only thing manifest is the wisdom realizing emptiness. So in those conditions, in those situations, then the bodhicitta is called wishing bodhicitta. So it's basically the same bodhicitta. Yeah, it's the same stuff, not really different, but because the bodhisattva is doing different things, then it's sometimes called engaging bodhicitta and wishing bodhicitta. So this is what I came to in my thoughts and reading. And again, I checked with Sugi if she thinks this is correct. And she said yes, she thinks this is correct according to Gyaltsabje. But that's the qualifying, okay? The qualification. Because it seems that other teachers, masters, commentators have different points of view. So she said, Lama Tsongkhapa's explanation of the two minds in Golden Rosary is different from Gyaltsabje's and is based on Prasangika tenets. So I mentioned this text last week called the Golden Rosary. So this is Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary to the Ornament, and it's actually the very first text he wrote in his career. I think he was only about 30 years old. And I've just ordered a copy of this for the library. It's huge. It's 4 volumes. 3 of the volumes have already arrived. The last one is on its way. But anyway, anyone who wants to read this can do so. So in Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary, Golden Rosary, apparently he has a different explanation of these 2 minds. So, according to him, on the small level of the path of accumulation, a bodhisattva has wishing bodhicitta. So that's the very beginning of the path. When you first develop uncontrived bodhicitta, you become, a genuine bodhisattva, you're on the path. So right at the beginning, it's wishing bodhicitta. But then, from the middling level of the path of accumulation, from then on, it's always engaging bodhicitta. It's interesting. No more wishing bodhicitta. I guess it's because the bodhisattva is continuously engaging in bodhisattva deeds. Non-stop, 24 hours, 24/7. But then there's that question of, meditative equipoise. Well, apparently according to Lama Tsongkhapa, even when the bodhisattva is in meditative equipoise on emptiness, they still have engaging bodhicitta. So I guess it's a question of how you define engaging bodhicitta. What's the criteria for engaging bodhicitta? So Gyaltsabje had a different explanation than Lama Tsongkhapa. There's probably many, many different points of view about this. So, and she said, because I had told her in last week's class, I had this sense from some of the questions that were coming up that some people had the thought that wishing bodhicitta is somehow inferior and engaging bodhicitta is superior. So they were surprised that even an Arya bodhisattva would still have wishing bodhicitta. And so she thinks, if there is this idea that engaging is somehow better than wishing, that it may be because of this, that wishing is just in the beginning, and then after that it's always engaging bodhicitta. So this is just, I hope this doesn't confuse you, but just to point out there are different points of view, and there's probably fierce debates on the debating ground about this. But that makes it interesting.
Shantideva makes a distinction of the engaging bodhicitta being superior. Can I read these 3 verses? It says, although great fruits arise even in reoccurring samsara from an aspiring bodhicitta aim, positive force doesn't accrue without interruption as it does with an engaged bodhicitta aim. As soon as someone perfectly gains hold of that mind with the thought never to turn back from totally liberating infinite realms of limited beings, from that time onward, whether asleep or not caring, a profuse amount of positive force gushes forth without interruption, equal to space.
Yeah. But that text too is written according to Prasangika. Yeah. And that's something I haven't mentioned. The ornament and the commentaries by Haribhadra and so on are actually not according to Prasangika. They're according to Svatantrika Madhyamika, and specifically the Yogacara Svatantrika Madhyamika. Okay. Well, the ornament itself, the thing is, Haribhadra, that's the main commentator they use in the Tibetan tradition. Haribhadra was a disciple of Shantarakshita. And Shantarakshita, who came to Tibet, he was an important person in the proliferation of Dharma in Tibet. He was credited as the founder of the Yogacara Svatantrika Madhyamika. So this is a form of Madhyamika that combines Chittamatra, or Yogacara view, with regard to the conventional existence of things, plus the Madhyamika view with regard to the ultimate nature of things. So he himself was a Svatantrika, and it's not clear to me if Maitreya's root text itself is written according to Svatantrika. It could be interpreted either way. You know, because the root verses themselves are very, very simple. They're just a few words, as we'll see soon. And they could be interpreted differently. And also at the time when that text was written, I don't think there were even such labels as Tantrika Madhyamika, Prasangika Madhyamika. Those came later in Tibet even. So it's clearly Madhyamika, but which type of Madhyamika is not clear. So there it kind of depends on the commentaries. Is that complicated, or does that make sense? Anyway, when we study the ornament, we're studying it according to that school, the Yogacaras, Svatantrika Madhyamika, and they do have different assertions about things, about emptiness, of course, the ultimate truth, but also about the way the bodhisattva progresses on the path and how they eliminate obscurations. It's quite a different presentation than Prasangika. So anyway, that could be one factor here. Because she said Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary is based on Prasangika, and Shantideva's text is based on Prasangika, whereas Gyaltsab Je's explanation, Haribhadra's explanation, are based on Svatantrika. So that could be a factor there. But I think even according to Gyaltsab Je's explanation, like when the bodhisattva is in meditative equipoise on emptiness, and their bodhicitta becomes non-manifest, and it's called wishing bodhicitta, I don't think that means it's somehow inferior. That's my view. It's still, just as good as engaging bodhicitta, but simply because it's not manifest. It's not manifest. It's gone to a dormant state, but it's still fully qualified bodhicitta. That's how I understand it. But again, somebody could smash me on the debating ground. Anyway, from the first moment of the path of accumulation, a bodhisattva has bodhicitta, and that's fantastic. Okay, so what else do we have? Okay, so this is continuing what I had planned to talk about last week. This is another way of dividing bodhicitta, conventional and ultimate. However, this is just a terminological division, just in name, because ultimate bodhicitta isn't really bodhicitta. It's just called bodhicitta, but it's not bodhicitta. Okay, so the difference between these, conventional bodhicitta is, as we've already looked at, the definition given before, the primary mind that wishes to become fully enlightened to help all living beings. And that exists from the Mahayana path of accumulation all the way through Buddha ground. Although, as we saw before, there's a debate about that. Does a Buddha have bodhicitta? I think so. But you can choose. So that's conventional bodhicitta. And then ultimate bodhicitta is a Mahayana Arya's main mental knower, directly realizing the emptiness of true existence, the ultimate mode of abidance, of enlightenment. Okay, so it's the wisdom that realizes that enlightenment is empty of true existence. So it's not really bodhicitta, it's wisdom realizing emptiness, but specifically enlightenment. And our teacher, Geshe Tenbel, explained that it's necessary to specify that the object in relation to which emptiness is realized is enlightenment. It's the emptiness of complete enlightenment, because the term ultimate bodhicitta, or ultimate mind generation, the terms ultimate refer to enlightenment. So it's the ultimate mind of enlightenment, ultimate mind generation. So it's referring to complete enlightenment. But of course, when an Arya Bodhisattva realizes the emptiness of one phenomena, they also realize the emptiness of all phenomena. You know that, right? Okay, so when you have the direct realization of emptiness of one phenomena, simultaneously, automatically, you have a direct realization of the emptiness of all phenomena. But still, our teacher said, you have to specify enlightenment here. This mind realizes the emptiness of enlightenment. It also realizes the emptiness of all other phenomena. Because it's called ultimate bodhicitta, ultimate mind of enlightenment, then you need to specify that. And this exists from the first ground through Buddha ground. So this is only on the Arya paths, path of seeing, path of meditation, path of no more learning. So ultimate bodhicitta is free of the three types of dualistic appearances. Anyone know what those are?
We have a list of 5, actually, from Jeffrey that his teachers combined. It's some of them are free of the dualistic appearance of subject and object, free of the dualistic appearance of inherent existence, free of the dualistic appearance of conventionalities. What's the other 2?
Those are the 3 main ones.
Yeah,
and
it describes a couple of others.
There's a 4th one, mental images, generic images, because this is a non-conceptual state of mind. So there's no mental imagery. Anyway, when they say 3 types, they're mainly referring to the appearance of conventionalities, conventional things, because only emptiness, only ultimate truth appears. And then the second one is appearances of true existence. In the case of Svatantrika, you have to say true existence, not inherent existence, because they don't deny that. So appearance of true existence, and then the third one is appearance of subject and object as different. Those are the 3 main dualistic appearances. So none of those are appearing when ultimate bodhicitta is happening, is manifest. Only emptiness, ultimate truth, ultimate nature is appearing. And conventional and ultimate bodhicitta represent method and wisdom. So conventional represents the method side of the path, ultimate bodhicitta, the wisdoms, the 2 wings of the bird to fly to enlightenment.
I don't know why it seems so funny to me, but on the point before, it seems funny to me that someone who, even though they have a direct realization of emptiness, and we say they understand the emptiness of all phenomena, it seems funny to me that they could understand what an enlightened mind is, since they still have all the obscurations in their mind. You know what I mean? Like how you're saying, it's funny to me that someone on the, like say, the first bhumi would realize the emptiness of true existence of enlightenment, a mental state that they actually don't even comprehend.
Oh, right.
You know, it's kind of like they sometimes talk about, this is more in serenity of like, or developing concept, or one of these things where, I can't remember where it is, where you can know the things, you can help the people below you, but you can't help the people above you, kind of thing. Because you still have the obscurations.
But, I mean, it's the same with us. We talk about wanting to become enlightened to help all living beings. We have enlightenment as our goal. You know, we're striving for enlightenment. I think that's valid. It's valid to think that way and to talk like that, even if we have no idea what enlightenment really is. I mean, we do have some idea. We can explain it, you know. So even though we're not enlightened, we're not experiencing enlightenment, we're a long way off, but we can still talk about it. And there is something, too, I can't remember now, but it's in the ornament about when you do have this direct realization of emptiness, it's as though you do get some kind of glimpse of enlightenment. Yeah, even though you're not fully there yet. It's not your experience, but something like that. So you have you certainly see enlightenment a lot more clearly than before you have that direct realization of emptiness.
All the types of dualistic appearance, I got a little lost. What was the first one on our list?
Well, the first one I mentioned was conventionality.
No appearance of
conventional
truths. Okay, that's what I wanted to
which means everything that isn't emptiness.
That's
so
what I didn't-
everything besides emptiness just vanishes,
Yeah,
disappears.
that's the one I didn't hear, and that's what I thought was missing.
Yeah.
But, okay, thanks.
Then this is a chart that might be helpful just to show where the different types of bodhicitta occur on the 5 paths. I don't know if you can see it, but so the first type of bodhicitta is conventional, bodhicitta, conventional mind generation, and that exists on all the paths, path of accumulation all the way up to Buddha ground, because conventional bodhicitta includes both wishing and engaging. So one of those two is always present all along the path. Then ultimate mind generation is only on the last 3 paths, because it's an Arya's mind, path of seeing, path of meditation, Buddha ground. Wishing mind generation is on only the first 4 paths, but not on the Buddha ground, at least according to, that's probably true. Because the Buddha is no longer just wishing, but is engaging all the time. And then engaging, the last one, is on all 5 paths. Starting path of accumulation all the way through Buddha ground. And then this is specifically the learner Arya path. So the term learner, if you're not familiar with that, that means somebody who's not yet enlightened, not yet at the end of your goal. So you still have things to learn. So these would be the Arya path, path of seeing, and path of meditation. So from the time you become an Arya, Bodhisattva, up until Buddhahood. So wishing bodhicitta is the first type. So the first column, or the second column, says meditative equipoise on emptiness. So when the bodhisattva's in meditative equipoise on emptiness, wishing bodhicitta exists, is there, but in a non-manifest way. And during subsequent attainment, it doesn't exist. So this is an Arya, okay? So when you're before an Arya, you could still have wishing bodhicitta. The term subsequent attainment means when you're not meditating. It's in between meditative equipoise. So when you're out and about doing things. So wishing bodhicitta doesn't exist because it's only engaging bodhicitta. Bodhisattva is always actively engaged in bodhisattva deeds. Doesn't just sit around and wish to become enlightened, but is doing things to reach enlightenment. Engaging bodhicitta. So during meditative equipoise and emptiness doesn't exist. This is according to Gyaltsabje anyway.
Is that the same as non-manifest?
No, it doesn't even exist. Because it's wishing bodhicitta. It turns into... Yeah, when the bodhisattva is meditating on emptiness, their bodhicitta becomes wishing bodhicitta. Because you weren't here last week. According to Gyaltsabje, it's complicated. For it to be engaging bodhicitta, it has to be manifest. It has to be on the surface, not dormant.
So it's subsequent attainment.
So during subsequent attainment, then engaging bodhicitta exists and it's manifest. But during meditative equipoise, it doesn't even exist because the bodhicitta at that time is wishing bodhicitta. This is Gyaltsabje's explanation, but there are different points of view. Complicated. And then ultimate bodhicitta. During meditative equipoise and emptiness, this exists and it's manifest. During subsequent attainment, it exists but not manifest. So they say, at least some, I think I mentioned last week, I heard Panchen Sonam Drakpa denies that there can be non-manifest states of mind. I don't know how he explains it, but according to Jetsun Choki Gelsen and other scholars, when a bodhisattva is in meditative equipoise on emptiness, their ultimate bodhicitta, their wisdom realizing emptiness, is manifest. It's fully there, fully present. But then when they finish their meditation, then they get up and go and do other things. They still have this wisdom directly realizing emptiness, but it comes non-manifest. It's in a non-manifest form, but it's still there in their mind. It's never completely lost. the direct realization of emptiness. And then with the bodhicitta, it's the opposite. When the bodhisattva is active, then their bodhicittas manifest. But when they go into meditative equipoise on emptiness, the bodhicitta becomes non-manifest. Yeah. So both bodhicitta, conventional bodhicitta, and ultimate bodhicitta, the wisdom realizing emptiness, they kind of go back and forth between being manifest and non-manifest, depending on whether the bodhisattva is in meditative equipoise or subsequent attainment. So then this was a question that Venerable Sepel asked when, I think you asked this question when Geshe Dado was here, about losing bodhicitta. Anyway, we got into some little bit complicated stuff. So this is what it says in the ornament. Bodhisattvas who are definite in the Mahayana lineage will not lose their bodhicitta and fall from the Mahayana path once they attain the small level of the path of accumulation. Okay, so right from the beginning, so this expression, definite in the Mahayana lineage, means you're on that path from the beginning, rather than you're first on the Hinayana path and then you switch over. So right from the beginning of your career, you're Mahayana. That's the meaning of that. So bodhisattvas who are definite in that, in the Mahayana, right from the beginning of the path of accumulation, as soon as they have uncontrived bodhicitta, it's there to stay. They're not going to lose it. It will never be lost, and they will never give it up. They will never fall down from the path. So that means they are definite to reach enlightenment. You know, they're on the path, and they will keep going all the way up to enlightenment. But then, bodhisattvas who are indefinite in the Mahayana lineage. So indefinite means it does happen sometimes that somebody starts off on a hearer's path or the solitary realizer's path, and they're on that path for a while. Then they switch over to Mahayana. Or they might go all the way to the end and become an arhat. But then Buddha wakes them up and says, hey, you're not finished. You got to generate bodhicitta. So then they enter the Mahayana path.
Maybe that's what happened to Shariputra, when the man gave his hand and he criticized what hand he gave him, and then that moment, for that one moment, that man was not in his purview of great compassion and love.
He lost it. Well, he started off Mahayana, and then he...
But he started off as a hearer.
I thought the story was... Oh, anyway.
Okay, that's just...
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know that. I can't remember exactly. But I heard, I don't know if this is true or not, but you know Ajahn Chah? Have you heard of Ajahn Chah? I heard that, probably not in this life, but maybe in another lifetime, he was on the Mahayana path. He was striving for enlightenment, and then he gave it up too hard. Have you anyone heard that story? Ajahn Mun. Okay. So that's more definite then. Okay. Anyway, so that type of bodhisattva, they will not lose their bodhicitta and fall from the Mahayana once they attain the middle level of the path of accumulation. Okay? So that sounds like that type of bodhisattva. Even when they're on the small level, they might still fall back, maybe because of their previous acquaintance with Hinayana path, you know. They're starting to... Anyway, so, but from the middle level of the path of accumulation. So that means all bodhisattvas, from the middle level of the path of accumulation on, all bodhisattvas are definite to stay on this path, the Mahayana path, definite to reach enlightenment. And then when this came up with Geshe Dado, he introduced this topic of sign of irreversibility. Do you remember that? Sign of irreversibility. So in the ornament it says, from the Mahayana path of preparation, the second path, from that time through the eighth ground, bodhisattvas attain a sign of irreversibility that indicates they are irreversible from complete enlightenment. So what this means is that bodhisattvas who are on the path of accumulation, at least from the middle level of the path of accumulation, they will definitely reach enlightenment. They, they're not going to fall back. They're not going to reverse their course. So in a way, they are irreversible, but they haven't yet attained a sign of irreversibility that indicates that. So these signs of irreversibility only start on the path of preparation. And there are 44 of these signs, and depending on what kind of faculty one has, sharp or dull, they will happen at different levels of the path. So they say sharp faculty bodhisattvas will start attaining these on the path of preparation. It can also be attained on the path of seeing and path of meditation. And even the dullest faculty bodhisattvas will definitely attain a sign of irreversibility by the 8th ground. Okay, so that means all bodhisattvas, by the time they reach the 8th ground, will have attained a sign of irreversibility. And just to give you an idea of these signs, here's a few of them. The first 3 that can occur right at the beginning of the path of preparation, the heat level. The first one is having turned away from grasping at true existence of forms and so forth. Okay, so you're I don't think that means you're completely free of grasping at true existence, but you've turned away from it. It's not kind of coming up anymore. Grasping at forms as truly existent. And the second is that you've extinguished doubt through having attained faith in the 3 jewels. So you no longer have doubt, you have very firm faith in the 3 jewels. And third is having extinguished rebirth in the 8 states of non-freedom. Okay, so you're no longer in danger of falling into any of those 8 states of non-leisure or non-freedom in the precious human life rebirth. You're free of those. That's just to give you some idea. And there was one that was really interesting. It also occurs on the path of preparation, the peak level. The 80,000 types of microorganisms do not occur in the body to having attained roots of virtue that are the cause for non-abiding nirvana. So they say, ordinary beings have these 80,000 types of microorganisms. There's probably more than that, right? Probably millions, zillions. Anyway, so bodhisattvas who attain that sign of irreversibility doesn't have them anymore. I don't know what happens to them. Maybe they go to the Pure Land or something. But anyway, bodhisattva doesn't have those in their body anymore. And then the meaning of irreversibility, what it means to be irreversible, is two possible meanings. One is from the point of view of attitude. One has eliminated the opportunity for arising the manifest attitude seeking one's own liberation, self-liberation, self-peace. In other words, you don't have any more manifest self-cherishing. Self-cherishing mind doesn't come up anymore in a manifest way. So that's one meaning of irreversibility. So once you've attained the sign of irreversibility, that's one of the things. You don't have any more manifest self-cherishing. And then another meaning of irreversibility is from the point of view of application or conduct, one possesses a stable realization of special method and wisdom. So there's stability in your method and wisdom. From the point of view of application or conduct, one possesses a stable realization of special method and wisdom. So I understand that as stability in your method and wisdom. This was another question that came up. I think Venerable Sangye asked, self-cherishing. When is self-cherishing overcome? So according to the information that I found, this is from Geshe Jamba Gyatso, who taught the first Master's program. He said the stains of self-cherishing still exist up to the 8th ground, but not after that. Okay, so that means it's only from the 8th ground onward that self-cherishing is gone, totally gone from the mind. So it could still exist in the mind, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's coming up, manifest, you know.
That makes it sound like it's non-fiction.
No, because according to this school, this is one of the big differences between the Svatantrikas and the Prasangikas. So according to Prasangika, you've probably heard before, Bodhisattva will be eliminating the afflictive obstacles over the first 8 grounds. By the time they reach the 8th ground, they've completely eliminated all the afflictive obstacles. And then they start eliminating the knowledge obstacles or cognitive obstacles, whatever you want to call them. But according to Svatantrika, it's different. They say that the Bodhisattva will eliminate both types of obscurations simultaneously, starting from the path of seeing all the way up to Buddhahood. So they are eliminating a certain amount of both afflictive obscurations and knowledge obscurations all along the path, all the way up to Buddhahood. So that means on the last 3 grounds, what are sometimes called the pure grounds, the 8th, 9th, and 10th ground, according to this school, Bodhisattvas still have afflictive obscurations, as well as knowledge obscurations. So Geshe Jamba Gyatso said that, according to this school, this is the reason why the first 7 grounds are called impure grounds, because the Bodhisattva still has stains of self-cherishing. And the last 3 grounds are called pure grounds because there's no more self-cherishing, even though they still have afflictive obscurations. So it's a different explanation. So what did Geshe-la say when you asked that question? I think he said he wasn't sure when you. And again, this is according to Svatantrika. Prasangika might have a different explanation as to when you eliminate self-cherishing.
He said you don't eliminate them. He said you overcome them, and he described these 3 types of irreversibility.
Yeah. So this signs of irreversibility indicate that you have strongly overcome, in the sense that it's not manifesting. You've overcome the self-cherishing, but that doesn't mean it's totally abandoned, totally eliminated. So according to this school, it's not totally eliminated until the 8th ground. Then I mentioned in the ornament there are these 22 types of bodhicitta. I'm not going to go through all of these, but I thought it might be nice to look at a few of them. And so these are the verses from the root text by Maitreya. So 2 verses. Further, earth, gold, moon, fire, treasure, jewel mine, ocean, Vajra, mountain, medicine, spiritual guide, wish-granting gem, sun, song, king, treasury, highway, mount, geyser, pleasant sound, river, and cloud. These are the 22 types. That's all he says. There's no more. He goes on to the next topic. Okay, so you can see why it's necessary to have commentaries. Otherwise, what's he talking about?
Highway, what does it, I know what is a highway, but a type of bodhicitta?
That's
highway?
like a highway. Well, it just means like a really big road, a great road. I mean, in those days, they didn't have...
Is this a sign?
Okay, so these words, these are more like similes or examples. So the 22 types of mind generation are referred to by way of similes or examples with which they have similar features. So the first one is called earth-like bodhicitta. And the reason it's called that is because the earth is often used in Buddhist texts to refer to the ground. It's like, because we have the earth, we have the ground, then all kinds of things can grow on it. Plants and trees, and we can get minerals and gold and so on. So the earth is the basis for all these good things in our world. And so in a similar way, this first type of mind generation is the basis of all good qualities, all wholesome qualities. Okay, so these terms then are just similes, examples that have something in common with different kinds of bodhicitta.
I don't understand similes. Sorry.
Simile? Example? You understand it?
Like medicine. It cures our afflictions.
It's just like something is like something. The Dharma is like medicine. Bodhicitta is like the earth. So, because bodhicitta, we're talking about a state of mind, and that's something invisible. So, it's a little hard to understand it. But if we use some common object in the world that we know, we can see, we can work with, then it helps us to understand this inner quality of bodhicitta. Okay, so each of these 22 also has a companion, which is a state of mind or a mental factor or a practice that's concomitant with it, like a companion. So for the first type of bodhicitta, earth-like bodhicitta, the companion is aspiration. Also, each of the 22 occurs at a different point of the path. So the first one, the earth-like bodhicitta, is on the very first level of the path of accumulation, the small level of the path of accumulation. So I thought to just talk about the first couple, just to give you some idea, not go through all of them, partly because I didn't have time to review all of this, but also it's just a huge amount of material to go through, and it can be overwhelming. So the first one is called earth-like bodhicitta, and this is on the small level of the path of accumulation, right at the beginning. Just as the earth is the foundation from which everything is produced, like crops, minerals, and so forth, this bodhicitta is the source from which all the attainments of the bodhisattva paths and grounds arise. Okay, so it's like the ground, the earth, and then all the other wonderful qualities and realizations of the path, all the way up to Buddhahood, will arise from that. And its companion is aspiration. There's not a whole lot of information about these, even in the commentaries. So, if you start asking me questions, I'm not going to be able to answer. But they're still beautiful. The examples are quite beautiful. And the second one is called gold-like bodhicitta. And this is on the middle level of the path of accumulation. So gold is something that never rusts. Is that right? Like other metals get rusty, but gold will never rust, even if it's sitting out in the rain. So gold never rusts. In the same way, this bodhicitta is unchangeable and remains stable until the bodhisattva attains enlightenment. So remember, from the middle level of the path of accumulation, a bodhisattva will never lose their bodhicitta. It will never deteriorate or degenerate or get lost. It's strong and stable. So it's like gold in that way, that it will never get rusty. That's why gold is used. And the companion for this is, there's different translations. Some say intention or resolve. The Tibetan term is sampa, which sometimes also is translated as thought. Again, it's not that clear, but there's not that much information about it. It gets a little more clear later, because some of the later ones are connected with the 6 perfections. So the third one is similar to the new moon-like bodhicitta. This is on the great level of the path of accumulation. So a new moon, right at the beginning, it's very thin, but day by day it grows, and the color, shape, and luminosity grow clearer and stronger. So similarly, this bodhicitta continues to grow in strength, while the bodhisattva's mind gets clearer, more pure, and the accumulations of merit and wisdom develop ever more. Yes, it's, you're still at an initial level of bodhicitta, but it's just like the moon. Once the new moon appears in the sky, it's definite that it's going to keep growing until eventually it's the full moon. It's not going to get smaller, it's just going to get bigger and better. And the companion of this one is extraordinary resolve, or universal intention, great resolve, whatever. That determination to work for the benefit of all sentient beings, the responsibility. I'm going to take care of all sentient beings. And the fourth one is called fire-like bodhicitta. And this is the path of preparation. So what marks the beginning of the path of preparation? How do you... On emptiness, yeah. So you've got this super powerful, not yet a direct realization of emptiness, but a pretty powerful realization of emptiness, combined with single-pointed concentration, super strong concentration. So fire, just as fire burns, as we know, forest fires, brush fires, and so on. So fire burns everything in its path. This bodhicitta empowers the bodhisattva's mind to engage in analytical and stabilizing meditation on emptiness, so that it destroys manifest obstructions to the direct realization of emptiness. Because from the beginning of the path of preparation, you've got that union of calm-abiding and the special insight on emptiness, and then you keep meditating on that, and you're kind of burning away, clearing away whatever obstructions there are to having the direct realization of emptiness, which will happen on the path of seeing. So that's why it's like a fire. Although it's not the bodhicitta itself that does that. The bodhicitta, is like an assistant to the wisdom realizing emptiness, enables it to get stronger and stronger and more powerful to clear away the obstructions. And the companion to this is application. But that word application, I think, is the same as, sometimes it's translated as training. I think it's also the same word as preparation, the path of preparation. Some translators call this the path of application or the path of training. So it's the same word, but can be translated in different ways. Okay, then the fifth is called treasure-like, and this is the path of seeing, first ground. So this is when the bodhisattvas attain the direct realization of emptiness. So just as a treasure like, a collection of gold and jewels and so forth, is able to satisfy the needs of many beings, this bodhicitta, which is now in the mind of an Arya bodhisattva, is able to satisfy the needs of numberless sentient beings. And the companion of this is the perfection of generosity. So when the bodhisattva reaches this path of seeing, the first ground, they're said to have a surpassing practice of generosity. Their ability to practice generosity becomes super enhanced. They're able to give so much more, even their body. No problem. Take my body, eat me, whatever. Okay, so this will be the last one we look at. So this is the jewel mine. Bodhicitta, that's like a jewel mine. And this is the second ground. Just as a jewel mine is the source of many precious jewels, this bodhicitta is the source of all realizations and happiness. And the companion is the perfection of ethics, because it's on the second ground, the bodhisattva attains a surpassing practice of ethics. So in each of the subsequent grounds, they're connected with one of the other perfections. Third ground is perfection of patience. Fourth ground, perfection of joyous effort, and so on. So they get a surpassing practice of one of those perfections as they progress through the ground. So anyway, this is just to give you some idea about the 22 types of bodhicitta. And there aren't many places where you can read about these, but there is one book. I don't see it in the library, but it's called The Path to Enlightenment in Tibetan Buddhism by Acharya Geshe Thupten Lodin, who lived in Australia for many years. And it's a big, thick, I have a copy if somebody wants to borrow it. It's a big, thick book like this about the Lam Rim. And it's really my favorite Lam Rim book, I have to say, because he was teaching the Lam Rim to a Western audience, a bunch of people in Sydney or Melbourne or whatever. So, it's kind of very contemporary and uses examples. He talks about ice cream and football instead of yaks and butter, So it's kind of very contemporary and very simple as well, simple language. So he goes through the 22 types of bodhicitta in there. For anyone who really wants to read about the rest of them and about the highway. I just didn't have time before this morning. So just one more thing. You've probably heard this before, but it's fun to look at. These are 3 ways of generating bodhicitta. King-like. So king-like bodhicitta is where bodhisattva thinks, I will achieve enlightenment first, and then I will lead all sentient beings to the state of enlightenment. I will be like the leader of everybody. And then the second is called the boatman-like. So this is where the bodhisattva thinks, we will all go together. I will take all sentient beings along with me to enlightenment. It's like a captain taking all the passengers on the boat. And the third is sometimes called shepherd-like or herdsman-like. And this is to think, I will herd all sentient beings to enlightenment in front of me, and I will be the last one. Wanting to be the very last one. So it said these 3 modes depend on the mental strength of the person. So those who have great mental strength, those who are sharp in faculty, will be like the last one, the herdsman. And those with middling strength are like the boatman. And those with little mental strength are like the king. Sounds like it should be the opposite, right? King is so strong and powerful, but yeah. But in reality, they say, even if you want to be the last one, you want everyone to be enlightened before you, and you want to be the last, it's not going to happen like that. Even if you say, no, I don't want to get there, I don't want to attain enlightenment. But, if you've got all the causes, it's going to happen.
Yes. But you have to have enlightenment to be able to lead sentient beings out of samsara. So why is the third version then the one that seems to be the most suitable one?
Well, I think it's just so unself-centered. You know, it's just not thinking about me, you know. I don't care if I have to stay in samsara forever and be the very last one out. That's how I think of it, you know. Like someone who's just so focused on others and dedicated to others and wanting to help others, wanting them to reach enlightenment, want them to reach enlightenment, not caring about oneself. I think that's the reason. So that's the real altruistic bodhisattva attitude. But then in reality, yeah, I mean, practically speaking, yeah, you have to get there yourself to be able to help others get there. But it's more a question of your attitude about your attainment of enlightenment, whether you're really, really eager to get there. Maybe there's still some self-centeredness involved.
And these three ways also have, do they, all the ways through, so all the paths are the same order, or do they have different orders and lower paths, for example? Like when you're still having wishing bodhicitta and you have the, oh, this is generating bodhicitta. Oh, never mind, I got a twist in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think the path is the same for everybody. You do have to go through these specific stages. Just like, you know, if there's a 20-story building and there's no elevator and you don't know how to fly, and there's only the staircase. So you do have to go step by step for the first floor and the second floor and the third floor. You can't just jump over. So my understanding is you do have to go through all the stages, because one stage leads to the next, and the later stage depends on the earlier one. But then how fast you go through them will vary. Yeah, so all three of these types of bodhisattvas, is my understanding is they will all proceed in the same way, but it's more their attitude, different kinds of attitudes. And I think, I'm trying to remember, was it Ananda? There was some famous person who was said to be like the last one, the herdsman, like. Does anyone remember? There was some famous person who had that kind of attitude. Anyway, that's it. Yeah, we can still have questions.
I have to keep asking this question till I get it. So, bodhisattva who attains the small level of the path of accumulation won't fall back, but a person at that level can still get very angry, right? And so the anger doesn't cause them to fall back. In a moment of anger, we're really, saying, I don't want anything to do with you. I'm not going to work for your benefit.
Well, I don't know. I mean, yeah, they do say bodhisattvas can still get angry, because in that explanation, it's found in the Madhyamika Avatar of Chandrakirti, that's the famous one about all the dangers of getting angry. It comes in this section on patience. And he does say, yeah, bodhisattva is getting angry at another bodhisattva, or bodhisattva getting angry at a non-bodhisattva, or bodhisattva getting at a higher bodhisattva. So anyway, bodhisattvas can get angry. But maybe they wouldn't go to that extent. I mean, you can get angry, but that doesn't necessarily mean giving up your bodhicitta. Right? You just have a moment of anger, but that doesn't necessarily destroy your bodhicitta, don't you think? To say, I'm never going to work for your benefit anymore.
But in those moments of anger, we're so blinded, and obscured. I guess there's levels of anger. I don't know if this has been discussed, but does it have to be the case where you've decided, okay, I'm not working for you, and then you've lost it?
Well, I guess, if they say that from the path of accumulation on, at least the middle level, that doesn't happen to bodhisattvas. I guess that means they could still get angry, but they wouldn't get angry in that way. They wouldn't get that angry to the extent of giving up their bodhicitta. I guess that can happen before they enter the path of accumulation, where you're still, trying to generate uncontrived bodhicitta, but it's still contrived. Maybe then it's still possible that you might give up your bodhicitta.
Okay.
But not after.
That's good news.
That's my understanding. That's according to this explanation. Don't you think it's possible to get angry at somebody, but still, feel I want to help them, I want to work for them?
The anger can be present, it manifests, but they don't act out on it. That's how I understand it. At 8 bhumis, it's gone. There's ever anger arises. But during the day, often we feel in our body and we don't act into it.
Yeah.
So that's how I see it.
Yeah, there's all different levels of anger. I can get really, really angry, and people say, "You?" I look like somebody who never gets angry, but I can certainly have it inside, but I don't act it out. So, yeah, there's all different. Sometimes a person can get angry in one moment, and a few moments later it's gone. Other people get angry, and they're angry for hours or days, years. So, yeah, different ways that it can happen.
I would think, though, that a bodhisattva never gets that thought, that level of anger that I would abandon you because you're pissing me off. It may be, oh, you're frustrating me so much. Don't you see I'm working for your benefit? That could be anger. I mean, we're taught that frustration and irritation are levels of anger. So I would think it's levels of anger. Otherwise, it is a loss of bodhicitta.
Well, I don't know. I think you can still be angry, but not lose your bodhicitta. You can
Right,
still
but I mean,
just, you did such and such, just angry about that particular action the person did. But, that doesn't mean that you will go to the extent of saying, I abandon you. I'm not going to
right. That's
help
what I'm
you
saying.
reach enlightenment.
I don't think they get to that level
No.
of thinking that. Because it's not just acting on it, it's having the thought, I will abandon one sentient being.
Especially after so much time and energy they put into generating bodhicitta, all those meditations on the sevenfold cause and effect and the exchanging self for others and tonglen. I mean, making their mind so familiar with that kindness of sentient beings. Yeah. So hard to believe they could give that up, but I don't know.